Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to Utility Sports. Today, we're going to be taking another look here at a specific NFL team mock draft. Today, we're going to be focusing on the Carolina Panthers. They've had a very busy offseason, made some good moves in free agency, I thought, addressed that offensive line a little bit, kept Taylor Moton there in place at the tackle position, and then they also brought in Sam Darnold in a big-time trade with the New York Jets, sent out a 6th-round pick this year, a 2nd-round pick next year, as well as a 4th-round pick next year. So it's an interesting dynamic there going on in Carolina for head coach Matt Rule, offensive coordinator Joe Brady. They got a young defense, still have some places that they really need to address on that side of the ball. So in this mock draft, we're going to see how we can go about filling in this roster, especially at some of those key positions. So let's move forward here. If you guys do like today's video, make sure to hit that like button and also hit that subscribe button if you guys are new to the channel. We're going to be doing a 4-round mock draft here. That's pretty basic here on the channel. And now, guys, if there's any video you would like to see, any specific team you would like us to do an individualized mock draft for, let us know right now in the comments section, and we can get that to you guys as soon as possible, hopefully. We've been a little bit busy here at Utility Sports, but we love all the support for you guys. We've also been thinking about doing a live mock draft on the channel where you guys make the picks. Let us know if that's something you're interested in down in the comments below right now. Love to hear from you guys. But here, looking at what's off the board now, we see the 2 top pass catchers, Jamar Chase, Kyle Pitts, go 5 and 6. Rashawn Slater goes off the board at 7, so the top 2 tackles are off the board as well. Trey Lance did fall here. However, with them making the move for Sam Darnold, I just don't see them going quarterback at this point. Looks like Trey Lance will be there for the taking if Denver does want him at 9. I'm not going to take him here at 8. For me, it really comes down to a couple different places. One, I could look at the linebacker spot. I think that they badly need to find someone who can complement Shaq Thompson and be a guy that fills into the middle to replace Luke Kuechly. They badly missed him this past year. Or a cornerback. Time out, guys, they badly missed. James Bradbury was at the top of that list. He played very well for the New York Giants. I knew he was going to be a key loss for them, but he even stepped up his game to another level with the New York Giants. And I think right now Carolina's got to be looking at themselves saying, how do we get a top-end cornerback here in Carolina? They need one badly, in my opinion. Yes, I know tackle's a need, but with the top 2 tackles off the board in Sewell and Slater, I just don't necessarily see them going there. At that point, I'm going to opt for Patrick Surtain, the 2nd out of Alabama. He's a lengthy cornerback, has good footwork, very, very strong on the line of scrimmage. Now, he has a little bit of a tendency to overuse his hands. He's a little aggressive off the line of scrimmage. He's a little grabby, but all in all, I think that he is a very, very good cornerback. He ran very well in the combine. He's got very good length, in my opinion. He's got a good frame, good size. And he's going to be a force in the NFL, actually, I believe. I think he's very arguably the top wide cornerback in this class. I know Caleb Farley has some potential to be that as well. But Farley coming with a little bit of a back injury. I know that he got cleared, that he's not going to be too big of a problem. But all in all, I think Patrick Surtain makes more sense for Carolina at pick 8 if they're not able to trade down. Because at this point, they've got to be looking at themselves, trying to find ways to improve this defense, and cornerback is such a big need there in that division. You're looking at the Atlanta Falcons, who have Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. You're looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and then also the New Orleans Saints. They have Michael Thomas. You need to have elite cornerback play if you're Carolina, and I think Patrick Surtain gets you at least closer in that regard. Now here at 39, this is another interesting spot to see to be here if you're Carolina. You're looking at, some offensive tackles are still here at this point. This is what I was talking about. There's not much of a drop-off, in my opinion, from the 3rd or 4th tackle in this class all the way down to what is going to be the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th tackle in this class. Guys like Eichenberg, Dylan Radins. This is a real area for the Carolina Panthers to look at and to finally try and address that offensive tackle spot. Also, a guy who could be in the works here, Pat Freiermuth out of Penn State. However, I just don't necessarily know if I see them going there with the other needs that they have on this team. I think that they're going to value building up some of those trenches and continuing to focus on that defense as at least through the first 2 rounds. I think that's really where their emphasis is going to be. Jabril Cox is here as well. I really like Jabril Cox. For those of you who don't know on the channel yet, I love what Jabril Cox is going to bring in terms of what his pass coverage game looks like. Very athletic. I think he's going to be a very, very, very good NFL player. You heard it here first If you guys haven't heard a lot about Jabril Cox, I urge you guys to watch him after the video. He is insanely talented, in my opinion. I think that he's going to be a really good pickup. However, I don't see them going with him here at 39. I think they're going to stick into that offensive line, and I think they're going to go Dylan Radins out of NDSU. I think he's a true tackle coming in. I don't think that there's any chance he actually kicks into guard. And he can play on either side, in my opinion. He might be best suited to play right tackle early on, coming from NDSU, that FCS program instead of an FBS program. That might play a little bit into why he would move over to right tackle. At the start, Jabril Cox does go. That is unfortunate for us here, but we'll see what we can grab here at the top end of the third round. There's still some very good players here on the board. Gregory Rousseau fell all the way to the third round. But at this point, Freiermuth just went 2. That's unfortunate. And Brevin Jordan went. I was watching for those 2 guys to grab at the tight end position. But here, I've got to be feeling pretty good about what we've been able to grab through the first 2 rounds. Patrick Surtain, I think the number 1 cornerback in this class now, with some of the question marks around Caleb Farley. Dylan Radin, still a very good offensive tackle. You've got to protect Sam Darnold. You have some weapons there in place. Robbie Anderson, Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, to name a couple. Those are going to be some of those nice pieces for them. It's about trying to balance out the rest of this team there in Carolina. Now looking at where we're at on the board, we do have to look at that cornerback position one more time. I think it wouldn't hurt to grab another one, although with what's there, I just don't really see that being worth grabbing. Chaz Surratt here could be staying in the state of Carolina. That does make a lot of sense to me. That is something I'm considering at this point. Let's go look at the tight end room. Tommy Tremble still here, the Notre Dame product. I think that does make some sense. However, I just don't necessarily know if I love a tight end that isn't one of the top 3 in the class when it comes to Kyle Pitts, Pat Freiermuth, or Brevin Jordan. I just don't necessarily know if I love the value grabbing one of those guys in the top 75 picks. That's just not necessarily what I'm looking at myself. Here at the edge position, there's not anything I really love. They did bring in Hassan Reddick on a 1-year deal, so I just don't necessarily know if I feel like I need to make the move to grab one here yet at this point either. I think Carlos Basham Jr. would be a little interesting, but at this point, I think my focus is going to go back onto the offensive side of the football. And here, it's a little tough. I don't know. I want to look at the interior offensive lineman. It wouldn't hurt to go back in here again, grab another one at this point. I'm just not necessarily seeing anything I fully love. Now, a player like Kenneth Gainwell is a little interesting because he's an elite pass catcher too. You could spell Christian McCaffrey with another guy who's going to be an elite pass catcher. That would be interesting. Now, Christian McCaffrey is going to be healthier than he was last year. That is not a real concern of mine. I'm going to go ahead and grab Chaz Surratt. I think staying in state here makes the most sense for Carolina. They're going to grab the UNC product. And I think that he has a lot to offer in the middle of a defense. I think he's going to be very sound in the run game. I think he's got some potential to be nice in the pass game next to Shaq Thompson. And all in all, the focus for Carolina, again, this draft has to be defense. Matt Rule showed a lot of discipline in his first draft as a head coach, drafting exclusively defense in his first draft. And we've got a little bit of that similar trend here. 2 defensive players and an offensive tackle through the first 3 rounds. That's what he's been valuing, and I think he's going to continue to value those things when going through this year's draft at this point. And that's just what makes the most sense to me. Let me know in the comments below if you think there's a specific player that the Carolina Panthers could be targeting. And Victor Dimukeji goes. I was hoping that we would not see his name go. He was going to be the guy I would target here in round 4. I think he's the perfect long-term replacement to Hassan Reddick, assuming that Reddick's just here on a 1-year deal. Look for someone who can be a long-term replacement for him. I would love that long-term, but that is okay here. 113, there's still a lot of other really good options now at this point. Marvin Wilson's on the board here. He's a guy who was looked at as maybe a first-round pick earlier on. Dylan Moses is here. If we hadn't grabbed the linebacker earlier, I would have maybe considered that. Sean Wade, a guy who, maybe has some potential that he could play out of the slot and be pretty effective early on in his career. That's something I would be considering still at this point. The interior offensive line has thinned out a little bit. I was concerned about that. But that's just kind of how it goes when you don't have a ton of assets. They're just waiting every pick of their own here at this point. There's not much they can really do about that. They've put their process out there. They've built up the right way so far. I think Carolina is a team with a good future ahead of them. Now, I don't know if Sam Darnold was necessarily the direction I would have taken the franchise. However, I do think Joe Brady is going to get the most out of him. So it's kind of tough really to say that it's a bad move for them. And I'm actually going to double down on the cornerback here. I'm going to go with Shaun Wade. I think he's a guy getting really slept on in the process now at this point because of some of his issues this past year at Ohio State. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. He had a very down year at Ohio State this past year. Really struggled. But the issue was Ohio State was relying on him covering number one options on the outside, and Ohio State plays a lot of really good teams, some really good teams in the Big Ten. And then obviously come playoff time, they face Clemson. That's a very good team. And also Alabama with a lot of elite wide receiver options. If you're looking at Shaun Wade and saying, well, he was bad this past year, he was not playing the role he's going to play in the NFL. He's going to be a slot cornerback in the NFL, especially if you come in and already grab Patrick Surtain. You get that outside cornerback. Shaun Wade can be a guy who functions out of the slot for you. I think that makes a lot of sense long term. There's not pressure on him if he's going to be playing in the slot. He's not going to be a number one corner. He'll never be a number one corner. But in round 4, if you're looking for a slot cornerback, I think Shaun Wade has a lot of tools that are going to translate well to the NFL in that area. And here again, we're seeing a very disciplined draft for Matt Rule, going a lot of defense, finding an offensive tackle to protect Sam Darnold. Now, is it possible round 4 they really look at the wide receiver position and try and find someone to replace Curtis Samuel? I think so. But at the same time, I don't think that's necessarily a huge need for Carolina. They've still got 2 very good receiving options in DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson as wide receivers. And let's not forget how great of a pass catcher Christian McCaffrey is. He could be a very, very good slot receiver if that was just the only thing he did. He's that good of a pass catcher. And remember, he's coming out of the backfield. I think the Panthers have a lot on offense. Now it's about trying to build up that front 5 that they have there. Dylan Radins is going to go a long way in helping do that along the offensive line. And then also continuing to improve this young defense. They needed help in the secondary. Surtain and Wade are going to bring that. They also need some help up the middle. Chaz Surratt is going to be a nice piece for them. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this mock draft video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure to hit that like button, and we'll catch you in the very next video.